The truth about China's economy. Exploitation and regression. China's economy is fundamentally an economy of exploitation, built on systemic inequality that benefits the ruling class by extracting profits. Every economic policy is designed to manufacture and sustain this inequality. In contrast, Western economics emphasizes fairness, encouraging equal transactions among individuals. However, China has deliberately structured its economy to create a few massive state-owned enterprises, SOEs, that can engage in fair trade with the world, while its people are left to be exploited by these SOEs, cut off from normal integration with Western markets. This strategy enables China to leverage its vast labor resources to boost the competitiveness of its SOEs, effectively dragging the global economy toward a modern form of slavery. If the West does not sever economic ties with China, it will be forced to regress into a slave-based economy to compete on equal footing. This regression would inevitably lead to a massive step backward for human civilization, sparking wars across the globe. This is the stark truth being revealed here. Reform and opening up. A grand deception. China's so-called reform and opening up was nothing more than a massive con. The ruling class exploited it to deceive the West into transferring technology and knowledge of standardization. Using this, China built countless factories. But driven by insatiable greed, the ruling elite has plunged the country into imbalance on every level. Their ultimate goal is to establish a high-tech slavery system. Step by step, they are dismantling private enterprises, bankrupting independent entrepreneurs, and reclaiming the fruits of reform and opening up into state control. Everything is being nationalized under the guise of progress, while the common people are left with no choice but to work in government-run factories. This ongoing destruction of the private economy is deliberate, part of a grand design by the ruling class. The cultural values embraced by the ruling elite are nothing more than tools for evil. They pretend to act in your best interests but are, in fact, plotting against you, lulling you into complacency. This mirrors the strategies laid out in ancient Chinese military texts like The Art of War by Sun Tzu, with its emphasis on deception. Yet, ordinary people are not allowed to learn these strategies. Instead, tools like TikTok are deployed to disrupt independent thought, while the education system instills resentment toward traditional Chinese classics like The Art of War and The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Meanwhile, the ruling class uses these very texts to manipulate the masses. The shepherding technique of the Chinese ruling class. China's history is steeped in a culture of slavery. It brainwashes the masses while meticulously documenting methods of control. If every Chinese citizen could truly read and comprehend historical texts and military strategies, they would unravel the ruling class's tactics. However, few today can read classical Chinese, while the elite are well versed in these ancient works. This tragic irony has persisted throughout history. Take Mao Zedong, the founding leader of the Communist Party. He was a master of Chinese historical texts and military strategy. Even after achieving supreme power, he never put down his books. Mao had nothing but contempt for the Chinese people, whom he saw as weak and spineless. He slaughtered tens of millions, yet they never woke up. Chinese history and culture revolve around violence and strategy. Respect is earned through force and cunning, not submission. As long as people remain docile, they will continue to suffer under this system. The truth is that the ruling elite employs shepherding techniques to manipulate the population like a flock of sheep. They create illusions through propaganda and narratives that are designed to keep people trapped. For instance, the propaganda tells you that the outside world is dangerous, encouraging you to stay in China. It convinces you that unemployment, hunger, and hardship at home are better than venturing abroad. You, like a pig in a pen, are made to believe the wolves are waiting outside. Ask yourself, when you receive information, what do you do with it? The ruling elite calculates your every reaction. You think you're acting freely, but your choices only serve their interests. This is the essence of the shepherding technique. They manipulate your perceptions and ensure that every action you take furthers their agenda. The destruction of independent thought. China's ruling class uses psychological warfare to maintain control. Through education and censorship, they cut people off from independent thinking and suppress access to texts that might reveal their schemes. Tools like TikTok distract people, reducing their ability to think critically, while systematic indoctrination makes people hostile toward their own cultural and intellectual heritage. Imagine if every Chinese citizen could fully understand the strategies in the art of war and the romance of the Three Kingdoms. They would be armed with the knowledge to see through the ruling class's manipulation. Instead, the elite monopolizes this knowledge while leaving the masses ignorant. This is a tragedy for the Chinese people. Mao Zedong, despite his tyrannical reign, achieved his power because of his mastery of history and strategy. He despised his people for their ignorance, and he used violence and cunning to dominate. This is the reality of China's cultural legacy. Violence and strategy are tools of survival, while submission only leads to further exploitation. Wake up, people of China. The current rulers of China are deploying a new wave of deceit. They employ self-sacrificial strategies, coupled with media propaganda to convince you that remaining in China is your best option. They want you to believe that staying is safe and venturing abroad is dangerous, all while quietly dismantling private enterprises and reinstating Mao-era economic policies. The country is closing its doors once again, preparing for confrontation with the West. The ruling elite knows this path leads to conflict, but they are prepared for war. Meanwhile, they spin narratives of peace and victimization, blaming the West for China's plight. The people of China must see the truth. Preserve your strength. If you can, leave the country. Protect yourself from becoming a pawn in the ruling class's game. When you learn these truths, do not fall into their traps of controlled outrage or passive acceptance. The rulers thrive on your inaction. They count on you reacting exactly as they expect. It's time to break free from their framework, to reject the shepherding techniques, and to seize control of your own destiny. Remember, your silence and compliance are their greatest weapons.